Welcome to episode 4 of Date Nights with Joey and Tammy. It's going to be a very fun episode. We are going to, well, we told you what we were going to talk about in this episode at the end of last one. So if you guys watch and or listen to the entire episode, you guys will know what we're talking about.
That was a long one.
It was a long one, but we did kind of preview what we're doing in this one. And we are going to be talking about
Aliens.
yes, and if they are real and things like that. It's gonna be super cool. We have a lot of opinions on it, so that's gonna be fun. Yeah, so we're just gonna kind of talk about it, and then Tammy looked up one, and then maybe a few other Reddit stories that we're gonna read. Hopefully they are decent because we didn't look up them in advance.
I looked at the titles.
Yeah.
So
we don't know if they're good. So we'll see.
I'm also reading them on my phone, so that's going to be fun too because it's
fonts.
not as much surface area.
Yeah.
To like.
But that's okay. Yeah, it should be a good episode. You guys hopefully are enjoying our little podcast. We were just looking at the analytics of our first 3 episodes and saw that there's might be a few people that are listening from Canada. So
it's pretty sick.
Shout out to Canada for being sick and listening to our podcast, whoever you are. Hopefully y'all are enjoying it. But yeah, you ready to dive into our episode?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Yeah, so I guess the question that we're going to be talking about, are aliens real? Y'all should definitely comment on the podcast, whether you're watching it on YouTube or on Spotify. You can actually comment on Spotify. So you should let us know your thoughts on whether you think aliens are real or not.
Yeah.
And we'll reply back to as many comments as we can.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah. So Tammy, what are are aliens real? Yeah.
I 100% believe that they are real.
And thankfully, we're on the same page about that, which is super cool.
It would be crazy if we did not believe the same thing.
Yeah, because we have pretty much the same opinion on a lot of things. So.
Yeah. We may go about things differently.
Yes.
But we have a lot of the same opinions.
Right. Which is really good.
Yeah. Which is really cool.
Yeah. We always joke that we're the same person, but also not at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's great.
It's wild.
Yeah. But yeah, we both think aliens are real.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to explain why you think aliens are real? I'm very interested to know why you think they are.
I like to keep an open mind about things that we don't know to be true as human beings.
Right.
So I also don't ever want to put God in a box to think that the earth is the only place where he created life.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because like the universe is ever expanding.
Yeah.
So I feel like God is still creating. So why would he not? I mean, we're his favorite.
Yeah.
But God is so creative that he could very well be out in another, I mean, he's out of space and time, but like he could be somewhere creating life that we would know to be aliens.
Interesting.
You know?
Yeah. So you're saying you think that like there could be, when you say that there could be other life, like what do you have in mind, like when you say life? Like are you, because obviously it's not human.
Right.
Because
I mean, I don't know, it's just a being of some kind, because obviously if it's from either another planet or like somewhere out in the universe, it can't be human.
Right.
Because it has to have another way of, like, because the only way that human life operates the way it does on Earth is because of the way our atmosphere works and the way our planet works.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would like explode and melt and stuff. It'd be the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, or freeze, depending.
Depends.
Anyway, so like their makeup would have to be different to be able to survive anywhere else.
Mm.
So they can't
But-
be human,
Yeah.
you know?
But they would have to be like more similar to animals that don't have like a conscious or free will.
Yeah, because we're the only.
Yeah, because then
beings.
what? You would have other potentially perfect beings on another planet.
Right.
Then that
goes against.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, what? Okay. So what do you think of when you think of aliens?
yeah. So I just scrolling on the Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and I heard somebody kind of explain it this way, and I think it personally makes a lot of sense. So obviously we're the only ones created in the image of God.
Yes.
So obviously with aliens, they're they're not what. So obviously in the beginning there was, like before, like the world was created. Obviously there were angels
Mm-hmm.
and all of that, right? And then obviously Satan at the time, or Lucifer, was in heaven and was like, "Hey, he rebelled against God."
Yeah.
And then God was like, "Not on my watch. You are getting thrown out of heaven."
Said bye, dog.
Yeah. But he wasn't the only one.
Right.
He and all
Satan had
his
followers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he and all of his
Angel buddies.
angels were tossed out of heaven. And so then that's, in the Bible it talks about fallen angels.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, obviously fallen angels, any angelic being is also not confined by time
Mm.
because they're angels.
Mm-hmm.
Angels just appear when God tells them to appear wherever, right?
We've also seen that time and time again in the Bible.
Yes. And so with that, they are these interdimensional beings.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's more what they are. So aliens are basically just fallen angels who are very demonic.
What a vibe.
Yeah.
I
And
never
so-
thought about it like that before.
Yeah, and so basically what this person was saying was, and again, it would make kind of sense that, like, sure, fallen angels, they can, well, they're fallen angels, so they're liars because they're demons, so
Mhm.
they're helping Satan to try to get as many people away from Christ as they can. So he uses his people, his demons, to go about that business.
Right.
Well, demons are liars, and so they can go into whatever form that they need to,
Mm.
so they can appear to us in various ways.
Wow.
And so they were like, yeah, they can appear and say, hey, yeah, we're from a a galaxy that's 3 million light years away. You can't prove that.
Right.
They can take whatever shape and form they want. And that also goes kind of like, 'cause there's a lot of not religions, a lot of cultures and things
Mhm.
have these stories about, like, shapeshifters and all
Yes.
these things, right? Which I think,
There's a
uh,
type of demon that does do that.
right. So I think all like again a lot of these um uh people oh, like these people groups, these stories that they have, they're not just like someone just making things up.
Right.
There's
Someone's
there's there's
experienced
truth to
things.
these
Yeah.
things. So these things that they say are shapeshifters or potentially Bigfoot, like all these things. If a demon wanted to be Bigfoot, he could certainly do that,
Yeah.
right? And so again, it's not like these people are just making these wild stories up for no reason. Um, I think it's more of these demons that are outside of space and time. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have that constraint like we do.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, they disguise themselves and do whatever they want, and that's what I think
I
aliens are.
I never in my life would have thought about it that way.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Which that like makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Now we're gonna end up talking about demons and stuff because
Yeah. Well, and then I mean, obviously, then there's the whole thing with like giants.
right.
Like clearly giants are a thing. Um, there's definitely been like fossils of very extraordinarily large humans that lived.
Is your
Obviously not
Bible
anymore.
app pulled up
I
right
do
now?
have my Bible app pulled up. Yes.
I love this man with my whole heart. I came out here with like, ooh, God's creative and could have created these things. And now he's like, demons,
Yes.
scripture. I love you.
I love you too. Um, well, I mean, this is more on the topic kind of the giants,
Mm-hmm.
but I also think this kind of like in a way supports the whole alien thing. Um,
Yeah.
so obviously, you know, they were the fallen angels and they were cast out of heaven. Um, and again, they're not. They can just kind of do whatever they want. Um, and so, um,
Also, I'm sorry if I'm making weird eye stuff. I forgot to take out my eye contacts because I'm an old lady. I forgot to take out my contacts. Now they're really dry.
yeah,
I'm sorry to kill the vibe.
no, it's all good.
I was also buying you time to find what you were finding.
Right. And again, this more has to do with like the giants.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, which the Nephilim
Yes.
are
Yeah.
basically fallen angels, right?
Right.
So it says here in Genesis 6, chapter 4. So the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward. When the sons of God came in to the daughters of man, they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. And it says like on the old notes thing that the Nephilim were giants, aka fallen angels.
Oh yeah, because weren't giants like gigantic
Yeah,
or
aka
aren't because they still exist?
right,
Right.
like Goliath and all that.
Yeah.
Um,
Whoa.
yes. So like again, so these fallen angels, and so this was like pre-flood. So the these fallen angels were cast out of heaven, and then basically made their own race in a sense, which were these giants, because they are the fallen angels. They were like, well, we're just gonna then tried to corrupt the world, right? And so then they had relations with the women of the earth that God created.
Relations is wild.
I'm trying to give it somewhat of PG here. Um, and then, like I said, they bore children to these Nephilim, which were these giants, and that's how there were giants, because the Nephilim were the fallen angels, had children with normal women, but then these babies were obviously very large.
Oh, those poor women.
Yeah, and created this whole race of giants. The reason giants aren't still here is because of the flood. Well, yeah. So, um, I mean, they probably were still at least somewhat around after that, because genetics still probably carried on and stuff.
Yeah.
Because obviously, post flood, there was still like Goliath and whatnot, who was a giant, who was supposedly 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, there were giants at some point,
Whoa.
which were the result of the fallen angels mixing with humans.
That's insane.
Yeah, and the fallen angels are demonic, anyways. And from the again, what I've kind of think is more realistic is that these supposed aliens and all the alien encounters people see, they're just these so-called aliens are just demons, like actually like visibly like showing themselves
Mm-hmm.
in whatever way that they choose. So like when you see UFOs, and it's the same thing with UFOs. So UFOs are real as well.
Yeah.
Um, again, these ships and things that are supposed UFOs, they're just demons disguising themselves as a some craft that, because when you see this footage of UFOs, they just like they're there and then they just disappear. They move weird. They like it's all this weird stuff. And again, it's just demons basically just
So do you
messing
think
with your
they
mind.
like abduct people? What do you
Uh,
think about that?
I absolutely think that could be a thing. I mean, now, uh, uh, are they truly getting abducted? Oh, maybe. But it'd be, I mean, it's either that or they're getting possessed by these demons who would then give them these, like,
Dreams,
illusions and
visions,
dreams
yeah.
and visions and things. Because you can have visions that you feel is, like, real.
Right.
Um, I mean, you see that even in sleep paralysis. You feel like,
Sleep paralysis is the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced in my life.
I've never experienced sleep paralysis. I've heard about it. It sounds terrible. But it's like, you're not awake during this, like, or maybe you are. You can correct me.
You are awake.
You are awake. Okay, but like, you just can't
You
move.
physically cannot move your
Yeah.
body. It's terrifying.
Um. Yeah, but it's crazy. But even for that, I mean, I know it's a weird thing, but um,
I think sleep paralysis though is more like you're an in between an awake and sleeping state. So
you're not fully awake.
that's why you can't move your body. That's I don't know if this is true or not, but I
I
think
don't know
that's
much about
why
sleep paralysis.
I haven't looked into it that much, but um I think it's like your body's in the process of waking up, so whatever parts of your brain that function with your body assumes your body's still asleep, so you can't move.
Right, but you're technically awake.
But you're aware, like your mind is conscious
Yeah,
of what's happening in the room.
yeah,
So that's why, like, when I experience sleep paralysis, um, I'll like try to speak, but I can't, or I'll see shadows in the corner,
yeah.
or things like that. Which every time I've experienced sleep paralysis, I always think it's like a spiritual warfare thing.
Oh, 100%.
Because it's like the enemy's trying to silence me type of thing.
Yeah.
But because I'll try to like speak the name of Jesus and it won't come out, but I'll be like screaming it.
Yeah.
And so it's like a whole thing.
Yeah. So maybe sleep paralysis isn't the best, like, kind of correlation. But I think when people get these, when they say they're abducted by aliens, I think it's more just it's not that they're not physically experiencing things, but it's in a in like a vision / dream, right?
You don't think they could actually be taken to like another dimension or something?
They might be able to. I mean,
I don't know if our physical bodies could be taken somewhere else. Maybe
right?
they can. I don't know. Because I also have heard of some people who've like talked to Jesus, like have like physically gone into the spiritual realm and have like been to heaven and seen like, I don't know how much of this that is,
Yeah, I think that kind of gets. I don't know. Like I mean,
because you never experience it. Like if you haven't experienced it, I guess you're like, I don't know.
yeah.
Could be, maybe, I don't know. But because I'm
But
an
also,
open-minded girly, so
yeah.
like,
But also, like, I don't ever want to say that those people's stories aren't true. 'Cause, and again, God can do whatever He wants.
right.
Um, and I guess it depends on what they mean when they say they talk and see Jesus. Because until you are gone and you have passed away on this earth, like, you cannot physically see the face of God
Right. You would die.
without dying.
Yeah.
So when they say these, and so again, it would be like, sure, if they pass here and their heart stopped, then yeah, maybe they have seen and come back,
Yeah.
and God's given them that ability. But so again, it could be something like that, where even demons are able to do that with people and pull them into that spiritual dimension. And then then maybe they are transported somewhere else for a time, and then they come back, and that's why they don't remember anything, because they were, or their memory is kind of like, I don't know.
Hazy.
Yeah, because they're in a different dimension. So when they come back to this dimension, they're like, I
It's
don't know what
all in
happened.
pieces,
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, very well could be that they
Right.
are being abducted into a different dimension by these aliens. Yeah. Aliens, aka demons. Yeah. So that's kind of my
That's crazy.
thoughts
Here's one
and
a
opinions.
completely different direction.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the only so with yours saying that, God could still be creating, like, life forms or whatever in different places. My only thing with that would be, well, kind of because of the seventh day, where He said God rested on the seventh day. I think because He created for 6 days, rested on the seventh. The way that I look at that is He rested from creating forever. He's like, I'm done creating.
He did
I
all
did
of
my
his creating in that time.
in the
Makes
6
sense.
days. I mean, in a ways, because I mean, He says, he knits everyone together in their mother's womb.
Right.
But again, all of that
Both the creation of like the atoms and the
was all done in
that
those
he
6
already- yeah.
days. So it's not like He has to
He's
keep
more
creating.
doing like cooking. Like you do certain amount of salt and pepper.
Right.
And
But then again, like, because people have free will,
yeah.
then that creative process is still going on. God doesn't have to. He put all that in motion in the beginning of time. and then all of that is carried out through his creation itself. So he is technically still creating us, but he doesn't have to he physically made Adam and Eve from dust. He doesn't have to do that because he put everything into them for the rest of eternity. So he's still technically it's his creation that's now creating more. He doesn't have to physically create it anymore because he rested, and he's gonna rest forever because he's just chilling in heaven.
He said, "Hey, I did all this work."
Yeah. Yeah, so like when it says he took a rest from creating is what I think. Obviously he's still working in this world. Um Even though sometimes it doesn't always look like that when you look at the news and things like that. But he is obviously still working in people's lives and all that. But that would be the only thing with your theory of what aliens are. And then again, whatever he creates is something that, like it says, that even the rocks, like if we don't give him praise, the rocks are going to cry out. So if he's creating something else out there, it's going to be something, one, that does not have free will like we do. It's going to be more something similar to like an animal that just, it only knows what its instincts are.
Yeah.
And those instincts are to stay alive and to sing his praises. Right.
Yeah.
Um
Again, we went in completely different
yeah.
directions.
It's fine. But I don't think he would be creating other life forms elsewhere. Um I don't know. I just think he did his creating and was like, all right, now I'm just gonna not watch it unfold because he's still in control of everything.
Yeah.
But it's it's a different thing. Well, and then we go into like if he was creating other life somewhere else. I mean, again, he can do whatever he wants, but that would mean wherever it is, though, there could be no death.
Right.
The only reason death is here on Earth is because Adam and Eve, in their free will, chose to disobey God, and then
Sin.
sin entered the world, and the death penalty is what we deserve for sinning. So there would have to be no sin, which means no death. So then, okay, well then, what would that other life form be?
Right.
They would all have to be non meat eating, like animals, basically. Something that doesn't need to kill anything to survive. And sure, the universe is always expanding, but so there technically could be other things out there. But I don't see it being a life form.
Yeah.
I think it's just planets and stars and galaxies. Because even that, being that, still sings his praise.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I think of what angels and demons and all that stuff is. It's interesting.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
You clearly think about this a lot.
Maybe a little bit.
I just really like movies about like aliens.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think that it's again, aliens are real.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I don't think that
what they are actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I think alien movies can totally be, they could be realistic. And it very well could be that, because people want to believe that there is other life forms out there.
Just like for why though?
I don't know.
Curiosity.
Yeah, because they think why on earth they're just intelligent life on this earth. Like
Yeah.
the universe is massive.
Right.
Like why just here?
Also, it's going to be a really bold statement, but also like, why does it matter either?
Yeah.
You know, as we're out here talking about aliens existing.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously, people have in movies and things like that have their ideas of what aliens are. Well, demons would know that
Right.
and be like, well, then this is an easy way to disguise myself. I'm just gonna. They've already said what we are, so I'm just gonna go
Be
in that,
that.
be
Yeah.
that, because then now they they could see it as like, hey, we're strengthening the argument or their view of what this alien life is. That so then it's drawing them into thinking about all that and not focusing on what really matters
Right.
of Christ. So it's a way that they can distract people from pursuing what really matters, which is Jesus. So
That's amazing.
yeah,
That's so cool.
it's wild.
This is why I want to marry him.
Yeah.
Not because you talk about aliens like that, but because you talk about Jesus like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a interesting kind of idea that I don't think is because I think a lot of people want to believe that there's a life outside of this earth. I just don't think they want to think that it's this whole. Well, I mean, it's in every movie. It's good versus evil, and that is very much a thing.
Yeah.
But people want to say, "Oh, it's this weird creature that lives way out there. So there's other intelligent life." I don't think other intelligent life can exist.
Yeah.
That's not on this earth. I think that would go against
The Bible.
the Bible, yeah.
What God has spoken. Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah.
Dang.
So that's my thoughts on what aliens are. Feel free to let us know your
Thoughts, comments, questions, concerns.
Yeah. But I feel like a lot of people are gonna disagree. But
Maybe.
it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to know people's opinions on it.
100%.
And what those are. So leave comments, please.
The cool thing though is that like we all may have different views, theories, perspectives.
Yeah.
But we can still hear each other out.
Yeah.
Because I never would have thought that. Like, I never would have had that perspective had you not said it.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic for sure. It's a whole good versus evil.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, because whenever I'm interested to see what this alien story is that you found on Reddit. But again, like whenever you hear people having these encounters, it's always this like, well, what's like this weird? They can't describe what it is, and when they do, it just doesn't make any sense to anyone. Um, which again is why, to me, it makes sense that it's these demons that are playing tricks on people.
Yeah.
Um, and again, when people talk about them, they're these um, weird, these weird creatures, and because I remember we listened to shout out to the Mr. Ballin podcast. Um, love it. He's a fantastic true crime podcast.
So good.
So good. Great storyteller. We were listening to one of his episodes about this guy. He was a police officer in somewhere in South America, and had this like weird encounter with, I guess, what would be, I guess it was considering it. They just, I think, ended up saying that, oh, it was some like paranormal kind of activity, basically. And the way that they like found these footprints, like the officers' footprints in this field, but the footprints like constantly got bigger and like further and further away to where they would end up being like 15, 20 feet apart. It's like, well, clearly a person not taking that big of a step. When the officer was like kind of going back over the story of what happened to him, there's he thought it was his car that turned into this field, trying to hide from, because he was like out looking for poachers and all this stuff. He was like, yeah, these. I just saw two red like eyes basically looking at him. That then like picked him up, and then just were like pushing him and almost like throwing him farther and further, and then you see these footprints that are further and further apart. Um, but all he saw was darkness, except for these glowing red eyes, and then just the feeling of being lifted and like thrown. Again, I think that's called paranormal, but again, when people say paranormal, I'm thinking, to me, in my head, that's demonic.
It's demons, yeah.
Just playing with people, getting in their head.
Because they can.
Yes. And
So dumb.
like physically picking you up and throwing you or doing whatever they want. And then, because when he basically came to and was just huddled in this field, terrified for his life.
Yeah.
And so he probably wasn't like physically awake for this. He probably was, under the influence of these demonic aliens or whatever you want to call these people that he saw.
Yeah.
That were just two glowing red dots. That everything else was darkness.
I wonder too if like, because demons can possess people, if like with that guy,
Yeah.
if he wasn't being thrown around, if he was like actually doing, because like demons can contort and shapeshift, and they make, like, I've heard people who have been possessed by demons, literally their face contorts and looks completely different. So it's like, I wonder if that's a thing, that they could literally just like leap so high into the sky in a human body that they could go that 15 feet.
Yeah, probably. Well, it's just like, again, another Mr. Ballin story that we were listening to. This guy was in jail and was out. He was going to his.
He got furloughed.
Yeah. So he was just out for a few days to go to his dad's funeral.
Granddad's funeral.
Granddad's funeral, yeah.
Semantics. Why do I
Yeah,
say these things?
that's
Jeez
fine.
Louise.
Um, and it was an open casket, and he then stood up during the funeral, and he was like pointing at his granddad that was in this open casket, and was like, he, I was like saying that he thought he was still alive because it looked like
Mm.
his face was like he was making a face, or like talking, and and then how he couldn't stand it, and so he went to some friends that he knew over to their house and was like, I'm just gonna can I just stay here until I gotta go back to jail? And the people were like, yeah, that's fine. And he just felt really weird, and so he just went up to kind of wash up and everything. And when he was looking in the mirror, he could have he was like, I could have sworn that he saw his granddad standing behind him when he was looking in the mirror. Like there was like a like look up and he just looked like he's standing there, and it disappeared. Um, and he tried to shake it off, whatever. And then he was just then down in the room, in the living room, just sitting on the couch, and then his face all contorted, and he was, you know, all this water just started leaking from every single wall and the floor and all this stuff. And
And his hands were
yeah,
contorting
his
too.
hands were contorting, his face was contorting. It's really weird. It obviously freaked the people that lived there out, and
Mm.
they had people come over, the police, everyone, plumbers, to try to
Plumbers.
find this leak. They're like, there's no leak. There's nothing wrong with your pipes, but like literally in the story, like the walls were literally like pouring water out of them, which is just weird. So anyhow, he goes back to jail, and immediately he gets to jail. And the as soon as he walks into the jail, the other his cellmate was like just looked at the guy's face and was like, I'm terrified of this, which again makes me think that he was being possessed by a demon. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, if somebody's being possessed in that way, it's like I'm sure you'd be able to tell, and like then you'd feel that a presence,
Yeah.
and the other guy's like get me away from this guy. I don't want to be
Mm.
near. And then he's just like the guy, um, he was just like I can make it rain, and the the jail guard was like, do what now? Like didn't believe him at all, and he's like, yeah, he's gonna. He said that he was gonna make it rain in um, the guard's boss's, like
Warden.
the warden, in his office. He's like, okay, then the guard was like, okay, then do it. And then again, his face and fingers all contort, and then he goes to the warden, and sure enough, there's water on his shirt, so all this weird stuff, and then they go back to the cell, and like literally everything is just dripping rain. The bars of the jail were like dripping in water and all this, and again, it's just like a weird, again, kind of like this demonic thing. Again, I think it's all just it's still related to all demons, aliens, all this stuff is just all connected in my opinion.
Yeah.
And again, they can whether it's taking the shape of a UFO or what you would traditionally think of an alien as, the green-headed triangular face that people think of when they think of aliens, or just somebody being demon possessed.
Yeah.
Um, I think they're just changing how they appear to us, to kind of again just keep us trying to not think about what God wants us to be focusing on, which is Him.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was a very long-winded
It's real.
thing. Yeah. So uh, anyhow, so I think Tammy's gonna now try to read whatever this story is, unless you have
Yeah.
other thoughts on all that.
No,
I've
I
been talking
like
a lot this episode.
yes, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Listen, I had a very long day, so
Yes.
listening to your voice is great.
Yeah. So,
Now you get to listen to my tired voice talk for this long story.
yeah. Is it long?
We're only just gonna do one because it's getting late, and your girl needs to take her contacts out ASAP. Rocky.
Yeah.
All right, this is coming from the subreddit r/aliens. The title is I think I had my first interaction with the phenomenon today. Parentheses, serious. Hey friends, I think I just had my first interaction with the phenomenon today. I have to tell some details at the beginning of the story that may seem arbitrary, but I think they are important for setting the stage for my emotional state at the time. My partner and I broke up on October 1 of this year. We haven't had any contact since then. I have admittedly been struggling quite a bit with this. I made the huge mistake of reactivating my Facebook account to see what she has been up to lately. Not my wisest decision by a long shot. Sure enough, I did happen to see something that made me rather upset. I immediately deactivated my account and decided I had to do something other than sitting at my desk. I suffer from borderline personality disorder, so my emotions are running wild at this point. I decided I would clean my office. I noticed that my trash can was pretty full, and today is trash day, so that means I have to walk down to the end of my driveway and wheel my trash bin back to my back porch. As I made it to the back porch, a stray cat that I have been taking care of was there to greet me. I sat on my back steps to pet her and just take time to try to get my mind right. I am still very devastated from earlier, so I put my head in my hands and just said, "Please help me, please." I raised my head and looked up and saw something pretty high up in the sky. It was a long shape and solid white, no trail behind it. It was just drifting along at a steady pace before it went behind some clouds. I wish I could have given more of a description, but I only saw this object for about 3 to 5 seconds. At this point, I start looking everywhere in the sky and I start to see these little translucent dots that are moving everywhere. These dots are not physical objects, but almost like the static you see on an old television. They are everywhere, and I can only see them when I look at the sky. It was almost like there was a filter on the sky. I look down at my hands, at Kitty, at the ground, and do not see them. Then I look back up and I see them again. I check the flight radar and didn't see anything in my area, but I don't know. It could have been anything, but it certainly made me feel incredibly strange. It was a very surreal experience, and I'm not saying that this couldn't be coincidence or anything like that. I have no idea what I saw today, but it was a very chilling experience. I am in Southeast Kentucky.
Mm. Interesting. I I feel like we don't have like too much to go on this
Mm-hmm.
because obviously, I mean, I'm sure for various reasons she didn't um didn't say what she saw on um Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it would have been nice to know like why, like what she saw that
What was
was
so
so,
devastating?
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, honestly, depending on like how it ended,
yeah.
and also having BPD could have just tipped them over the edge,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Um
I'm not saying what they saw wasn't real by
yeah.
any means, but
Well, again, I I mean I want to say in a way that kind of almost kind of gives kind of the merit to what what I had said. Um, these aliens are. Like they can
Yeah.
shape shift into whatever. Like you just went through this thing, and um, the that chilling feeling that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like if you see something like that, and then you like like physically feel like
Unsafe.
unsafe.
Yeah.
To me, that sounds pretty demonic to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I know you can feel uneasy about certain situations and feel uneasy. I'm not always saying that that means that it's
Demonic.
demonic.
Yeah.
You can feel uneasy about a lot of things
Right. That have
because
nothing
you're,
to do with demons.
yeah, you could be walking at night but you're by yourself and it's just a situation where it's like, yeah, I'm potentially in an unsafe spot. Of course, you're gonna feel uneasy about that. Or you're
Right.
going into a job interview and you're like nervous about it. Yeah, you're gonna feel a little uneasy. There's nothing demonic about that. But if you're looking up in the sky and you see something, this white cylinder thing with dots that are just floating, seeming to float in midair, and then so you see something weird that's completely out of the ordinary, like that,
Yeah.
and now, and you just went through this crazy traumatic thing, and it's almost just like the yeah these, and you have bipolar and all this stuff. It's almost like these demons are just like kind of like torturing you almost.
Yep.
And you can feel that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean that's such an interesting.
It's interesting that it showed up right after he was like, "Help me, please."
Yeah, that too. The timing of it.
Yeah.
And you would think that like if you were yelling out for help, and then it's, but now you're feeling having this uneasy feeling about things that you're seeing after calling out for help. Um,
Maybe it was them trying to tell him to like let it go.
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not trying to make light of this poor man's
right.
situation.
Um, yeah, I mean, but I don't think it like again if you're calling out for help, and then now you're starting to feel uneasy, and you're seeing this weird stuff. I would see that more as like a demonic thing rather than like if you're calling out, you know, calling out for Jesus, and then you see something white floating. I feel like you wouldn't feel, but also at the same time, like, but okay. The other thing though about aliens and things, um, and even with this feeling uneasy and calling out for help, maybe I shouldn't always say it's necessarily demonic, but it's definitely spiritual.
Yes.
Because I mean, there's plenty of times in the Bible, like when the angel Gabriel comes down to visit Mary to tell her, "Hey, you're going to be with child, and it's gonna be Jesus. It's gonna be the Messiah. You're gonna give birth to the Messiah." Or, you know, so many times in the Bible where angels have come down to visit somebody.
When they have to literally be like, "Please don't be afraid of me."
Yeah, or when the multitude of angels appear to the shepherds in the field. I'm talking about Christmas because it's gonna be Christmas here in a couple of weeks.
As
I
we're
know
talking
there,
about aliens
yeah,
and demons
yeah.
right now.
Um, I know there are other examples of angels meeting people. Um, I'm just giving the Christmas examples, but again, every time the angels have to say, "Do not be afraid," right? Because everyone is so fearful of them.
One also because have you seen the depictions of angels?
Right, which obviously nobody knows what angels look like.
Yes,
And
it's
sure,
true.
you can see these depictions and whether they're true or not is
I don't think they're the like winged up
no,
bros
no.
that everyone thinks they are.
Yeah, and I'm sure those types of angels do exist.
Sure, 'cause
100%.
every angels have different jobs. So
Yeah, and I can almost I don't say for sure that like
we've
a
never seen
human,
them,
right?
so
A more human with
it wouldn't
wings,
be a human appearance, but it because they're
but
not
resembling a human appearance. Yeah,
a human adjacent.
right. Um, sure, those could definitely exist.
Right.
Um, but like, and I don't remember where it is, but I know it's somewhere in Isaiah. That they give it kind of this interesting depiction of what angels look like.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this eye with like this ring and
That's
a
what I
ring
was
of
thinking.
eyes,
They're
and
like an orb, and then it's all eyes, and it has like
it's
yeah.
so yeah. You'd see that you'd be terrified if it appeared in your room.
Well, and what if it's like massive?
Yeah,
It
you
like
don't
takes up
know.
your whole room. You're like, hello,
Well,
brother. What are we doing?
yeah, yeah. So again, it could have been like if in this story, like he's crying out for help. It definitely could have been an angel. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily have to be a demon, this evil thing.
Yeah.
It could have been a good thing, an angel, but the angel didn't say anything. But it was more of a hey, I need help, and God was like,
I hear you.
I hear you.
Yeah.
He just might have again when people in the Bible saw angels, they were still terrified
Right.
until the angel spoke to them.
And
It
was like, you
doesn't,
don't need to be afraid.
yeah, but that doesn't mean angels always announce themselves.
Yeah.
So, it could have been that too. Um, as a way God's kind of like, hey, I hear you, which you know maybe not the most direct way, but because you'd still be like, what's going on?
Right.
But so I'm not necessarily saying it's demonic, but I think angels and demons are on similar lines in that way of like they can appear however they're told to appear to us. So um, it's still it would still be terrifying because you still feel like you're being visited by this
Unknown thing.
unknown extraterrestrial thing
Yeah.
that is terrifying to look at. Um, so whether it's an angel or a demon, it's still going to be terrifying because it
Right.
doesn't look like a person appearing to you. You're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So, yeah, it's a very interesting.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's all I had. So
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's kind of for the most part what our stance is on aliens, angels, demons. Yeah, they're basically just angels and well, aliens are I would say more so would be I would say are more so demonic.
Yeah.
Um, but again, I mean, it depends on how you define what an alien is. If
Yeah.
it's extraterrestrial life, it's basically life that's not here on Earth. So that could be again based on
Either one. Yeah.
how I look at it. It's these fallen angels that are now demons on the earth, or they could be angels that still do the same. Obviously, their message is completely different,
Right.
but they're still, it's a spiritual thing. Again, they're not from our world, and they're able to appear to us however they're needing to appear to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think typically, though, with aliens, it's going to be more of that demonic thing, but they could probably be angels as well. And
Yeah.
because no matter what, they're not from here. You're going to be terrified if you see one, unless it's an angel and says, "Hey, no need to be afraid."
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a very interesting kind of concept. Um, yeah, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's all. I think yeah, it's all just spiritual. It's all just a spiritual battle. Um, and again, it talks about in the Bible that we um wrestle with things that are not just flesh and blood. Um, again, it's that that spiritual warfare that's going on, and I think aliens are kind of a part of that because they're demons. So, yeah, and they don't have to follow the rules of time,
Right.
like we do. Um, and so they're interdimensional, and yeah. So that's my opinions
It's
and thoughts on it.
crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, crazy. Anything else you'd like to add? No.
Nope.
Okay. Well, I hope you guys enjoy our conversation of our opinions on what aliens are, and um, yeah, again, like we said, feel free to comment. Let us know what your thoughts and ideas and opinions are of anything that we talked about on this episode. Um, obviously, what both of our opinions are on this is very much based on what the Bible says. So obviously, we're talking about this through a Christian worldview, which if you aren't a Christian, then you might have a completely different view of what aliens are. So we'd love to hear your opinions on that.
Yes.
And um, I hope that you also listen to, again, why we think what aliens are, and that yeah, you just look into it, and if you have any other questions about religion or anything, let us know, and we can talk more about that, because um, we do love Jesus a lot,
We sure
and
do.
we would love to talk more about that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but yeah, feel free to leave your comments. We're not gonna be offended if you don't agree with us, or if you have a completely different idea.
Yeah.
Because we're definitely open to hearing other people's opinions on it. So
Yep.
yeah, I'd like to know from you guys,
That's
and
how we learn. That's how
yeah,
we grow.
absolutely. So well, yeah, hope you guys enjoy the podcast in this episode, and we're gonna call it a night here. So have fun listening to it, and until next time.
Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.